Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike. I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt. Matt, today we're going to discuss which Jets quarterback we'd like to lead a game-winning drive with our team losing, look back through some history, decide which guy we want.
And you put the tweet out there and you got a lot of engagement on it. I think 300 replies across the board you got. And
Cool.
before we get into it, don't forget to hit subscribe if you are new here. If you like the content on Twitter, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We'll be posting videos, what, 3, 4 times a week?
If
But
more, baby, more,
or
more
Mike,
content.
your replies were crazy because I really felt like there was a true split with who you were going to get. I saw a lot of Pennington, a lot of Vinny, a lot of Sanchez, a lot of 2015 Fitzpatrick. So I'm like, take us through. I think we're doing 3 minutes to go. You're down. What was your initial thought when you put that tweet out, and who did you lean to initially?
Yeah, the original tweet was between those four guys, it's 5 minutes left in the game, or 3 minutes left in the game,
Yeah.
down five. That's what it was. 3 minutes left in the game. Essentially, you need a touchdown. My original thought was that most people would not vote for Sanchez, and he's the sneaky guy that you kind of want. Mark Sanchez had 5 game-winning drives, led in 2010. Vinny T actually digging through some numbers. I think Vinny was the most replied person.
Mm-hmm.
It was close between Vinny and Chad, who are better quarterbacks than Sanchez. But Sanchez had that clutch gene. Fitz had the best season probably of all of them. You could probably argue Vinny's 98, but Fitz with the 31 touchdowns and 15. So I thought it was interesting. There was like any of the answers could be the answer.
Right.
I personally would probably take Sanchez just because I saw him do it so many times myself. But it's super close.
Yeah, the nostalgic factor of having Sanchez and seeing him do it. You mentioned 5 game-winning drives. I went through all of their fourth quarter splits, and they're all pretty mid in the fourth quarter, if we're being completely honest. So
Well,
starting
I'm
off
pretty
with
mid anyway.
yeah, well, Sanchez, my brain was like, no, Mark, came through in the clutch when it mattered. In the fourth quarter, he had 22 touchdowns, 29 interceptions, and a 53% completion percentage. And I think a lot of those might factor into maybe they're down 3 scores and Sanchez is trying to bring them back in the game. They have to throw the ball and then they're compromised. Fitzpatrick was interesting. So I went to 2015 only, not his entire career. 2015 fourth quarter, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks, 57% completion, by far the worst out of any quarter for 2015 for Fitzpatrick. So at that point, I'm like getting a little nervous. Chad Pennington, fourth quarter, pretty average, 29 touchdowns, 24 picks, 62% completion, which is way, way under where he is for the first 3 quarters.
Yeah,
And then I
he
landed
has.
on Vinny. Vinny's the
Yeah.
only good one in the fourth quarter.
What are his stats?
So Vinny in the fourth quarter in his career, 57 touchdowns, 40 interceptions, 57% completion, but ahead of where he was in the first quarter. So he's not even great. But when you look at those four, I was a little underwhelmed and trying to make this pick on my end. But my first gut reaction went to Sanchez as well. But if you're putting gun to head, and a lot of people listening might be Vinny guys, I think they would probably lean Vinny over like a 2015 Fitzpatrick or Chad.
And the fair thing with Vinny too, Vinny is again a better quarterback than
Right.
Mark Sanchez was. So should lean Vinny. But 2 years back to back, Vinny and Sanchez had the similar numbers. So in 2000, Vinny had 4 game-winning drives and 4 fourth quarter comebacks, which that stat led the league. And then
Okay.
2001, he had 5 game-winning drives, and that stat led the league. Sanchez went backwards. He had 5 game-winning drives in 2010 and 4 in 2011, and they're all pretty notable. Those games, so you'll have games like the Lions and Browns games
Right.
in 2010 come to mind. The game against the Texans, these are all in a row as well, and
The
that's one of the
Houston
most.
game was the one that's engraved in my memory. Like the
That's the
Houston
really
comeback
famous one. Yeah, and the whole
is
MetLife Stadium goes insane. It was 27-23 with like a minute left, and the Jets came back and won.
yep.
Um, so those are some good ones. And then in 2011, Sanchez is such an underrated season. That's Sanchez's best statistical season is 2011, where he throws 26 touchdowns. He runs for 6, so he has 32 total touchdowns. He's like a billion turnovers, but we won't go into that. I tweeted out the other day. Tweeted a nice play from Sanchez, a couple touchdowns like the Jaguars game in 2011, and everyone's like, "Dude, Sanchez, so much better than people give him credit for." I'm like, "Oh yeah," it's like I left out all the good stuff, all the bad stuff.
And I think we forgot to bring up Joe Namath is probably the answer here, but thinking of the time period, we're probably going to go with more modern guys. But Namath, if you're going to tell me in their era, I would take Joe Namath any day of the week. And I didn't look back at his
Of
fourth quarter
course, Joe
stats,
Namath
but
is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and that is also part of the reason I left it out because that is the obvious answer,
right.
even though, you can compare stats, whatever, but I don't think any of the four quarterbacks we just mentioned are going to throw over 4,000 yards in 1967 like Namath did.
Yeah, and curious to see the thoughts of people in the comments too, because you mentioned before maybe Kenny O'Brien could sneak in here if there's 80s Jet fans. Richard Todd you brought up, like there could be a guy that you say, hey, balls in the ground fourth quarter, I'm taking him. But
Look,
I think I'm gonna go definitive pick is Vinny. I saw a lot of Chad though. We didn't talk about Chad enough. I feel like just looking at how much his completion percentage dipped compared to the other three quarters, Chad Pennington also might be the best first quarter quarterback of all time. I got to pull up his stats. You won't believe this. First quarter, Chad completed 70% of his passes, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks.
in his whole life, he only threw 5 first quarter interceptions.
Yeah, first quarter splits. Unbelievable. With a 102 quarterback rating.
We went to the game where Geno Smith threw 3 first quarter interceptions in like 8 seconds. Chad doing 5 in his career.
I think Geno started 2 for 7 with 13 yards against Buffalo at home in
2014.
2014.
No, 2013. No, it was 2014. Fuck, 2014. Yes,
Yeah.
that was the year he sucked. Dude, Geno and Chad are the only 2 ex-Jet quarterbacks to go on to then lead the league in completion percentage elsewhere.
Okay.
Interesting stat. Geno Smith was just so impressive this year.
I'll make a point right now. If Zach Wilson is moved on from in next year, the year after, and he ends up leading the league in completion percentage, I will get Zach Wilson tattooed across my forehead live on YouTube if that were to happen.
You can do it now. You wouldn't have been able to do it before the face reveal.
Yeah.
It's just a lie. Dude, Kenny O'Brien, 1991, the last playoff year of his tenure with the Jets, he had 5 game-winning drives. Interesting stat.
Okay. All right.
And look, when I think of Jets quarterbacks, I think of 7 core guys. We've mentioned them all so far. It's Namath, Richard Todd, then O'Brien, Vinny, Chad, Mark Sanchez, and I guess there's only 6. I put Fitzpatrick in this thing. He's not one of the core 7.
Yeah,
six guys.
He wouldn't be there.
Yeah, and then you have all the supplemental guys: Neil O'Donnell for a couple of years, Brett Favre, Boomer, guys here and there that played for a couple of years. But those are the guys I think of as the main 6 Jet quarterbacks. I could have put Kenny O'Brien in that graphic as well.
You only got 4 photos on Twitter. You can only use 4. So people are gonna be upset about it. It's fine.
Elon, But yeah, I guess I think I would go Vinny. Gun to my head. Really need a touchdown.
I think if there was a gun to our head, we'd pick Mark Sanchez. To be honest, like we're saying Vinny now, but we're gonna probably pick Mark.
The scary thing with Mark is he actually, could just throw the ball right to somebody, or like Rob Ninkovich will strip sack him.
I have to see his fourth quarter stats when he's like trailing by 1 score. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, the other side, it's definitely watered down. I remember in 2009, Sanchez was objectively terrible. Before the playoffs, he's good in the playoffs. In 2009, Sanchez threw for 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, had 53% for the year, had no game-winning drives in the fourth quarter. So I'm sure those stats are way down a little bit because the next 2 games he's pretty clutch.
I got bad news. I'm looking at the splits right now.
Come on.
Mark Sanchez with trailing under 4 minutes to go. 6 touchdowns, 9 picks.
When did he do all of these?
Trailing with 2 minutes to go, 49% completion, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Just not great. Just not great.
I don't remember.
How does he only have 3 touchdowns with 2 minutes to go?
When did he throw 6 game-losing interceptions? I don't remember. He definitely got strip sacked a couple of times.
Not great. All right. Well, hey, Mike, I know you got to run.
Yeah.
We got a lot of videos coming soon. Any parting words when it comes to you got 3 minutes to go? Who you're taking?
Maybe not Mark.
maybe we pivot off.
It's always the scenario, the what if, which we'll have to do is what if Sanchez got the ball back in the 2010 AFC Championship game? Because again, he was so clutch that year, apparently, I guess. Yeah. Well, also maybe he's just better in overtime.
I think
he get to overtime.
I think if you put out, give me your biggest what if scenario, 90% of people are going to bring up the AFC Championship game, and the thought process is they guarantee score, not like, hey, they could punt and we get pinned inside the 8,
Oh, it's
and
we
then
win the game.
it is
Yeah.
like an automatic conclusion that the Jets win that game if they get the ball back. And I like the positivity. I like the most optimistic fan ever, but I mean, it's like a foregone conclusion
What if they
amongst
just
Jet
went like
fans.
3-and-out and got
They
sacked
could
at
have
like 4th and
happened.
10? Yeah, you're fucked. All right.
All right, Mike. It was great talking to you. Again, if you could, don't forget, hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll be back.
All right, buddy.
See ya.